In this show, I have the honor of speaking with Mark Stringer, the executive director of the Iowa ACLU. Mark shares some of the important and urgent work that the ACLU is doing to preserve free speech in these times. I learned that apparently this question that I've been asking about grocery stores has political implications, which I did not know. And I do a pretty good job of resisting the entire podcast to talk about work, since Mark used to serve as the minister at First Unitarian Church of Des Moines for 16 years. So let's get into the show. It's Great to Meet You is a production of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. At First Unitarian, we love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly. Unitarian Universalism is a pluralistic religious tradition, meaning we don't have a dogmatic statement of belief. Rather, we covenant with one another to put love at the center of our actions. We recognize the inherent worth and dignity of everyone and our interconnectedness with one another. And so our justice work seeks to affirm that worth for all people. If you think all people should be able to flourish and you believe your spiritual journey is less about dogma and more about how you treat one another in the world, you might be a UU. Let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me on It's Great to Meet You, the show where we meet the good people of Des Moines out there doing the good work. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Seek, and I serve as the minister at First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Today, we are talking with Mark Stringer, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Iowa. Mark, it's great to meet you.
Oh, nice to talk to you, Steve.
Thank you so much for being here today. Tell us about your work with the ACLU.
Well, I've been with the ACLU since 2017, but the ACLU of Iowa has existed for 90 years here in the state, about 105 years nationwide. Both the national organization and the Iowa affiliate came out of a time not unlike the one we're living in, where people were being arrested without due process. Their speech rights, their assembly rights were being limited. And so small groups of supporters, both nationally and here in Iowa, had the idea that we should be free to think and speak and protest without fear of government censorship or bullying. And so over these many years now, over a decade on the national front, we've been the nation's premier defender of the rights enshrined in the United States and state constitutions. So the ACLU of today has about 1.1 million members and donors, over 2,100 staff. And we continue to fight government abuse and vigorously defend a broad array of individual freedoms, including speech and religion, the right to due process, citizens' right to privacy, preserving, advancing voting rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights and gender justice, racial justice, immigrants' rights, criminal legal system reform, and more. Our topic areas are broad. Our impact is significant. And just grateful to be working for an organization with that kind of track record and, frankly, that kind of importance.
That sounds like an extraordinary amount of work, both in profile and scope. And in a moment like this, all of those are under attack in some way. How do you all keep scope and focus and energy through this?
Well, I can speak for myself. We've got a staff of 14 here in Iowa. We have 3 full-time litigating attorneys. We have a legal fellow that just joined us for the year. He's working on a project to kind of evaluate, analyze the use of student resource officers in public schools. And we're put together a public-facing report after that. But back to your question, like, how do we stay focused given all the work? I think, again, speaking for myself, it's really about knowing what our long-term strategies are and knowing that we are on, in my view, the right side of history. And that so many times, if the ACLU isn't involved, something won't get talked about at all. In fact, we were today at the Iowa Supreme Court arguing with some partner attorneys on a case that had to do with someone who had been in court and charges had been dismissed against him, and yet he was still assigned court costs and fees. This is an indigent person, somebody who can't afford these court costs anyway. And the idea that he could be assessed fines and fees and court costs for something he wasn't even convicted of is blatantly unconstitutional and frankly absurd. And so when you have these opportunities to stand up for the rights of people who generally don't have someone standing in their corner. In this case, it happens to be prisoners' rights, but we also stand up for those with disabilities, Black, Indigenous people of color, women, LGBTQ folk. We're on the side of the little guy, which in the big sense of the word is all of us.
Mark, I'm glad you brought that up because I was imagining sort of headlines around like, what is the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 and why does it no longer matter in America? But you're also bringing up the very small but very not small to this human being who's assessed fines that are both unconstitutional and unpayable. So that scope between what does it mean to have a U.S. Constitution and then one person's basic foundational rights when they're found innocent.
We pretty much work in three. You can think of our work as like a three-legged stool in a way.
Okay.
One of the legs is litigation. That's what we're most known for. That's doing the court cases, filing the legal actions. The second leg of the stool is our legislative and policy work. And this is where we're advocating in the legislature and city governments to preserve people's rights, advance them. And then the third is really public education and just making sure people understand what their rights are and how they can be involved in terms of preserving and advancing those rights. So, we have a variety of ways to go at any given topic. We call it integrated advocacy, in that it's not just the litigation side, it's also the communications of the litigation and the way we educate the public, whether we win or lose. Sometimes we may take a case without a likely positive outcome because we think the elevation of that case in the public eye will be good overall. But generally, we try to avoid cases where we're going to set bad precedent, where we're going to have the legal system perhaps, make things worse. And that's something we definitely don't want.
I don't even know how to ask the question, how has your job changed since 2017? Because in the last 10 months, it's just been sort of dizzying. Have there been shifts in focus or arc over these last 9 years?
Well, I came to the ACLU a few months after Donald Trump had been elected president the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And the even though the nation kind of did an up and down in terms of the political wins, Iowa has actually stayed the same, if not gotten more on one side in terms of one party control.
Mm-hmm.
The ACLU is nonpartisan, principled so. We don't have permanent friends or permanent enemies. Our point of view is the client is civil rights and civil liberties, not a political party or a particular politician. That said, I think the dynamics in Iowa have not really changed all that much during my time, and we really focus mostly on Iowa. We are part of a nationwide organization. Our donors' gifts to us are shared with the national organization and vice versa, but mostly we're focused on Iowa exclusively. So the dynamics here in the state haven't really changed that much, and so we continue to work both sides of the aisle to try to advance the rights and liberties that we think all Iowans should be afforded.
Have there been any recent work that you've done that you would want to spotlight in terms of the success that it made, or at least the conflict that it brought up?
It's a very trying time for civil rights and civil liberties, as you and your listeners know. Oftentimes the way we talk about our quote unquote success has a lot to do with whether or not we've been able to delay or dilute, if not defeat, bad legislation. Right now, we've got some things pending that I'm, of course, proud of. One is our fight against SF 496, which is, we refer to it as the Ban Books and Don't Say LGBTQ law. That was passed and signed by the governor in May of 2023. And since then, we filed a lawsuit against that law in 2023 in December, I believe. And so we've been bouncing around between the district and the appeals court in the Eighth Circuit on that case. We have argument in the appeals court for the second time coming up soon. Right now, the law has been temporarily blocked by a district court judge, and we're grateful for that. In most part, it's been blocked. And that's really about the freedom to read and learn and speak and to be LGBTQ in school and not be shamed for that, not be penalized for it. Very proud of that work. We've got a pending another federal lawsuit about SF 2340, which is an anti-immigration law that was passed around the same time, one of the worst in Iowa's history. Again, we have that currently blocked for the time being. And there's just a whole variety of issue areas that we can get into. I mean, one thing I can tell you in having this job, I knew about the ACLU, at least just kind of in a rudimentary way. But since I've been here, I'm flabbergasted at the notion that we could have the same country or the same state without the ACLU. There's so many times that we're in the mix, not by ourselves. We have cooperating attorneys, we have partner orgs, and of course our clients. But there are so many times when I think, gosh, if the ACLU hadn't been there, where would we be? And this is a perfect moment to say that again with everything that's going on. Since Donald Trump has taken office for the second time, I think we've filed 150 legal actions, our nationwide organization, against the unconstitutional actions of his administration. And we've had pretty good success. I'd say 75 to 80% of those cases have resulted in at least a temporary delay on some of the things that his administration has been trying. Again, this isn't about one person or a party, but it is about egregious actions that violate the U.S. Constitution. And that's what the Trump presidency 1.0 and 2.0 have both been about.
Yeah, I think when Steve Bannon talked about muzzle velocity, and just if you can fire off 10 things at once, rapid enough speed, it's just hard to fight them all at the same time.
The good news is, just like we were in the first administration, we came ready to hit the ground running. In fact, we filed the birthright citizenship lawsuit, because he tried to end that within 2 hours of him being inaugurated. Mm-hmm. And we just got a positive ruling on that. It's not a final ruling. Gosh, another thing I've learned is just how long these things take to get through the courts. But there's a lot to be fearful about right now, but I think there's a lot to be positive about in terms of the impact we still can have and the ways in which organizations like the ACLU continue to make a positive difference in the lives of Americans and in particular in this state, Iowans.
How can the Des Moines community support your work?
By embracing your right to speak and protest and assemble, petition your government. Specifically, you can certainly support us. We are 100% funded by donations of our supporters, and we don't get government grants. The government doesn't really give money to sue them, but we're grateful for our supporters, and we couldn't do the work without them. We consider them to be partners in the work. We have opportunities for people in Iowa to be a part of our advocacy arm, and I
think if there's a link that I can put into the podcast, that's probably the easiest way to get folks connected to that. Yeah,
sure. Well, the best way to connect to us is through our website, aclu-ia.org. And there you can donate. You can sign up for our action team on our website. We just launched a new campaign aimed at protecting Iowans' privacy by curbing mass dragnet government surveillance in our state. They're automatic license plate readers. If you haven't heard of them, you probably will. They're becoming more prevalent throughout the state. And we're seeing the consequences in their use both at the state and federal level of the government using surveillance tools like these, track, target, and even detain people based on what they say, their immigration status, whether they've had an abortion, etc. So we have a real opportunity in Iowa to stop this kind of surveillance in its tracks. And if you want to be a part of that, sign up for one of our action teams and we'll get you locked in.
Wow. Mark, we're going to take a speed round here. One of the things that we like to do is just try and get to know you a little bit. This is some questions that are not as profound as the work you're doing here. So, what's your favorite place to eat in Des Moines?
I'm really into Faustino's. It's a Mexican place on Franklin. It's in that little strip mall. I really like that place. It's a family-run business. I think they just opened up a location in West Des Moines as well.
Where's your favorite place to go outdoors in Des Moines?
Probably, honestly, walking around my neighborhood, and on the bike trail near my house. I live in the Waterbury neighborhood, and
Mhm.
it's just a very pleasant place to walk and be out in nature. Yeah.
Where's your favorite place to go indoors in Des Moines?
That's a fascinating question. I don't know. I think just my house. Is that
That's a
an appropriate answer?
that's a
I
great
mean,
answer.
I like to be in my house.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
a
it.
hermit, but I appreciate my family. So.
That's lovely. Do you have a stance on grocery stores? The Hy-Vee, Fairway,
I
Price
mean,
Chopper?
gosh, what a minefield. Just the politics of all the local grocery chains and things are complicated. I bounce back and forth lately. I've been going to Fairway just because it's close to my house.
Yeah.
But I go to different stores for different things. Graziano's is one of my favorite places on the south side to get the groceries and meat and stuff that they have. So I guess Graziano's is probably the one I'm very loyal to.
That's a new one to me. I'll have to check it out.
It's a
Do you
great
have?
Italian, historic Italian grocery store here in Des Moines.
Oh, okay.
Great sandwiches, great cold cuts, and things like that. But the sausage is what they're really known for.
And do you have a stance on the Cyclones, Hawkeyes, Bulldogs, or Panthers?
Well, my wife grew up in Ames, and so
Okay.
I've known her for, gosh, 30 some years. And so her family have taken me to Cyclones games. So I became a Cyclone kind of that way. But my daughter is a senior at the University of Iowa. So I think my allegiance is still with the Cyclones, though.
I was about to say that was a politically astute answer, but then you made a commitment.
I have a commitment. Leah knows it. She can deal with it. But
Okay.
yeah.
And then we ask the children here for questions. Do you want a theology question or a science question? They're both fascinating today.
I'll let you choose.
Okay. Why did the dinosaurs die? That's the
I
science
don't
one.
know. What I was told was it had to do with like asteroids or something. I don't know. Some kind of an alternate Big Bang. But I actually don't know the answer to that question. I wish I did.
I think I'm with you. I think it had something to do with the asteroids.
Or something.
Okay.
I
So
just think of Land of the Lost. That's I don't know
could
what
be.
happened.
So the staff here has a really great sense of humor, and so I asked them for either a challenge or a question.
Yeah.
And the question they have they didn't know who this person was going to be, but what's the most useless talent you have?
Oh, I can make a sound of a Windex bottle.
Oh, Zoom is cutting it off. Okay, I
Oh, that's
believe
too
you
bad.
though.
Let me get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
That work?
Okay. It did not. You'll just
That's
have
the
to.
most useless talent I have.
All right, you'll just have to meet Mark Stringer at the Iowa ACLU to hear the sound live. I think
Yes,
mine is
I'd
that
be
I can.
happy to do that. Yeah.
Do you know that scene in Amadeus when he plays piano upside down with his hands crossed?
Yes.
I can do that.
You
So
can do that. I'd like to see that.
that is a useless talent.
That's not useless.
Well, it's very
That's
specific.
it means something. Yeah.
As we wrap up, Mark, is there anything you want to promote? Any events coming up or ways for folks to get involved this fall?
I think just encouraging people to be a part of the action team that's accessible on our website. I think that's the best way to participate right now in the legislative advocacy that we're going to be pursuing in the coming year.
Okay. And I'll be sure to put the link on the site so that folks can know how to get involved there. And I want to promote the Iowa Trans Mutual Aid Fund. We're continuing our fundraiser, and we're hoping by the end of October to be able to send a lot of money for direct aid to our Iowa trans siblings who could use that help. Well, Mark Stringer, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep on doing the good work.
Thank you, Stephen.
And that does it for us today. Thank you all for joining us. Keep doing the good work, Des Moines.